Hi, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor. And in this video, I want to show you a new app that I've been working with called AutoEntry. So you go to autoentry.com and you can check it out for more information. But I'm going to log right in and kind of show you how the process works. So when I first log in, I'm going to see every company that I have connected to it. I actually have multiple companies or multiple clients connected to it because me as their accountant, I manage some of the data entry process for these companies. Now, one really neat thing about this software is it can actually talk to QuickBooks Online and it can also talk to QuickBooks Desktop. Nowadays, most apps only really talk with one of the platforms. So I really like, as an accounting professional, the ability to be able to manage clients of multiple platforms and know that this app can handle both of them. So then I click on the one that I want to work with. So I'm going to click on Hector's Construction and Decorating. And I'm basically given three options. I have uploading purchases, uploading sales, and uploading bank statements. So let me tell you what this software does. I can take any documents that I have in a PDF format that are either receipts, invoices, purchase documents, or anything that resembles a vendor's name, something that I bought, and a dollar amount. And AutoEntry will attempt to automatically read all the components of it and put it somewhere in your accounting. And it will give you the option to choose where it goes if it can detect it quite perfectly. So a couple of examples I have here. I have invoices from digital invoices I have from Google. I have here a PayPal detailed purchase. I have an invoice from Dropbox. I have one from Amazon. I actually have a receipt from IKEA. I have an email that contained a bill built in that I exported into PDF. I have this receipt from HotDog. I have this receipt from somebody else's QuickBooks file. And I have this other thing that looks like a receipt. So this is, in the real world, this is what we get. We have all these documents that look like receipts, that look like invoices, and someone has to transcribe that data and put it in QuickBooks. So what AutoEntry effectively does is it attempts to grab all that information and do the data entry for you. And it will give you a spot where you get to interject and say, wait a second, this is right, this is wrong. I want to categorize this way or that way. And then over time, you can actually create rules where you say, look, if it's this vendor, automatically send it to that category and things like that. So let me show you how it works. So I'm going to start with purchases and I'm going to click on upload. Then on this screen is telling me this email here, which is an email that we set up internally in AutoEntry. That's the email that automatically captures receipts that are forwarded from some other email. So for example, if you tell your vendor to send you the bills to that email, or maybe they send them to you and you forward them to that email, you actually don't have to upload the document into AutoEntry because it'll automatically grab it from there. Or I could just click on the drag and drop the files, or click on browse, and I can select which files I want to upload. So I'm going to click on browse files. I'm going to select maybe one of the invoices that I have here, and then I'm going to click on open. Then you're going to see a little upload queue list letting you know that the file's being uploaded. And then here on the top, you get a couple of choices. You get auto, which means AutoEntry tries to figure out whether multiple documents are multiple pages of the same document, or if it happens to actually be one PDF per invoice or per bill. And also, do I want all the documents that I'm uploading to act as a single transaction, because maybe the documents are different pages of it. So it really depends on how you scan the documents and how you get them from your vendor. All that stuff could vary. Now there's a key component here called capture items on purchase. So capture items on purchase basically means that AutoEntry will also read the details of the purchase and attempt to create that as line items inside your bill or your expense in QuickBooks. And that's crucial for people that receive inventory, for example. So if you got vendor bills with inventory that are very large and you want AutoEntry to start detecting those items that are in that bill to automate that process of you receiving inventory, that could be an option. Now it says 2 credits will be deducted per invoice. Towards the end of the video, I'll explain about their pricing methodology, which is really interesting. But all it says that it's 2 credits. It just means it's double, twice as much. So I'll explain that. So for now, I'm going to uncheck it, and I'm just going to upload the one item without the line items, just so it comes into QuickBooks. QuickBooks. So let me go ahead and close that and then show you what that looks like. So right here it says inbox 7. These are all the ones that we have uploaded, and that it usually takes 30 minutes or so. And some documents are faster, 5-10 minutes. Some documents take an hour, just because there's some artificial intelligence behind AutoEntry, and sometimes it checks against old records with the same documents that you've been uploading to try to look for patterns. And in some cases, there's just a process that goes behind converting and detecting this information. So not everything is automatic. In some cases, it will take 5, 10, 20. I had some documents that took 30 minutes, but that's okay, because I'm normally just uploading in batch and doing other things and then coming back to AutoEntry once all these things are detected and converted for me. So once I'm ready, I'm going to click on the inbox 7, and it'll show me all the items that have been read, and it's going to show me its version of each of these. So let's go to each one of them. So for example, this one, it detected the date, it detected the vendor name, it detected a dollar amount. Now let's look at the document so we can scrutinize exactly what's going on here. So the document was actually an Uber receipt that I got via email, and I think I forwarded from my personal email to my business email. So that's an example. So somehow AutoEntry has to figure out what to do with this, and actually did a pretty good job. So it figured out this is Uber somehow. So it actually typed Uber up here. So it told you exactly what it detected. Then it detected the dollar amount, right? So there's the dollar amount here, and it detected the total. It skipped the sales tax if there was any, and it skipped all these extra pieces of data. It's actually pretty smart. Somehow it detected that. It also detected the date, I guess based on the date of the email itself, because I don't think the document actually has a date on it. So that's actually even more interesting. It just picked up a date wherever it was and brought it in there. So it brought that in. It didn't bring an invoice number. There's no invoice number there. It didn't bring a reference. There's no reference there. This is actually a good read. Okay, no line item details, no need for, but it brought the vendor name and it brought the dollar amount. So at this point, then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on the drop down, and this supplier account, that basically means from your QuickBooks database, what is this vendor called? So if I already had Uber in there, which I happen not to have, it probably would have detected it, but I can just click on add contact and just create it as Uber. And this will create the vendor in your QuickBooks file as well. Whether you're using QuickBooks Online or Desktop, it will create that as well. And then it has a little checkbox that says remember this. So if I click remember this, it will create a rule letting me know that if I get another document that looks like this, automatically send it to Uber. And then the category would be like the expense category. So I'm going to go down and look for travel maybe. There it is. Okay. And then there's a button here that says publish and next. And that would actually take that document and publish it and put it into QuickBooks. Now I'm going to hop over to QuickBooks, and I'm going to click on the recent documents search box up here. And notice this bill that was created here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And this is what it looks like when it's created into QuickBooks. Now, a couple of things really important to notice. It did create a bill number, which I really don't know where it got that number from. Let's go back and check that to see. And in this case, it used the AutoEntry document ID because there was no invoice number in it. So this by default, it will create some sort of document just so you can find it. So that's actually pretty cool. And then here it put the account travel, and the description, it just brought over the vendor name. And that was perfect. It brought it as a bill, not as an expense. And we'll talk about how we get it to come over as an expense a little bit later. And then here where it says attachments, you can actually click on that, and it will actually bring over the attachment into QuickBooks. So it makes it even better. Now, if you're working with QuickBooks Desktop, the attachment doesn't come in because Desktop doesn't have the capability to bring the attachments, but it will bring in a link that you can copy and paste in your browser, and you can get to the document that's on AutoEntry. So it will have a link to the document no matter what, which is great. Let me go ahead and close that. And let's go back to AutoEntry and let's look at another one. All right, let's look at the IKEA one, which is really, I was interested on that one because that receipt was all wrinkly. Let's go ahead and click on that little eye icon there. And notice how this was. It's actually very difficult to read. Even my picture wasn't very good. And it did. It somehow picked up the total dollar amount here, $285. On this one, I didn't do an itemized read. Could have done that too. But it picked that up. And I brought that over here in $285.89. and then came in as an invoice, which in this case it means a bill or an expense. It doesn't mean the opposite, like, you know, as if the vendor was giving us credit. So you want to keep it on invoice. It just means that it's an expenditure. And then under the supplier AC, that would be my vendor's name, and I don't think I have IKEA in my QuickBooks, so I'll just go ahead and create it. And then click on Create Contact. And then on the category, I can type Office Supplies. I can click on Remember This. It detected a date. Let's see if we can even tell what the date is on this thing. There it is. There's the date. So I picked it up from that receipt somehow. And then if I don't want it to come in as a bill in QuickBooks, I want it to come in as a receipt, an expenditure, I click on this little button that says Mark as Paid. Now, in order to get this to work as Mark as Paid, I have to tell AutoEntry, which is my default bank account, that I make these expenditures from. So I'm going to go back here, Home, and then I'm going to click on the company settings. Then I'm going to click on Integration Payment Accounts. I'm going to click on Add Payment Account. I'm going to select, let's say, my Chase credit card. I'm going to create another one. Let's say I'm going to create my Bank of America bank account. Let me add another one. Let me create my Amex. So I can actually select multiple accounts here to be the allowable accounts in which I can post expenditures into, and I get complete control over which ones I can use. So let me go back here and let's view the inbox again. And let's go back to that IKEA. Perfect. Let's view that. Again, all the information that I have entered before is still going to be there. I can add some additional information here, like a PO purchase order or a reference number. I can type anything I want in there, and that stuff's going to come into QuickBooks. I can also choose the class and the location if it happens to be a class or location that I want to send that to. And there's this little checkbox here that says Mark as Paid. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I'm going to select which bank account I paid from. So let's say I paid from my Amex. And then when it says Publish To, I'm going to publish that as an expense. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Publish and Next. Let me go back into QuickBooks here. Let me click on the search box up here. And let's click on this expenditure that was recently entered. And we see that come in as an expense, source bank account Amex, category Office Supplies as we stated it. There's my receipt coming in as an attachment. There we go. It is pretty awesome. I mean, it is one of the apps that I'm thoroughly impressed by, but it is for multiple reasons. This is not new, an app that be able to read a receipt and detect the information and send it to QuickBooks. That's certainly not new, but an app that can actually detect line items or work towards getting line items, that's pretty novel. And also what's really cool is being able to read invoices, stuff that we actually are selling. See, most apps out there that do this stuff, they're only there reading receipts, expenditures, but none of the apps we're solving for folks, and there's a group of people that somehow they had their invoices made in some other systems that they want to bring that into QuickBooks. So I thought this was a great app to do that. So let's click on Sales, and then we'll click here on Inbox. And then this particular invoice I created in QuickBooks Desktop, and now I'm actually uploading it so I can upload it into QuickBooks Online. I mean, I don't want to get into the details in terms of why I did that, but I think it's just a really good example because it is an invoice that was created in some other system. In this case was QuickBooks Desktop. But this is more usual when you have maybe a shopping cart database that creates the invoices, or maybe you're doing them in Word or Excel for whatever reason. That's what it is. It brings in that data. Okay. So now we have here the date. So there's the date, 12/15/2022. It brought that in there. It's giving me a warning saying that this date is in the future, just letting you know that could be an issue. Now, customer account would be what's my account, my customer's number in QuickBooks. So let's say this happens to be this one called Jose. And then the category would be the income category. So that's only if I don't want to bring in detailed line items. So if I don't want to bring detailed line items, I'm going to pick one of my items that's already in my QuickBooks database and make that the one item where everything comes in through. which is right there, or I can manually, if I wanted to, I can manually select the line items on my own. So I can click on add line item here, and I can actually come in here and select each of the line items and break them down manually. So this is without it detecting the line items. So that was me manually adding them here in the software. Okay, so basically we just use the software in this particular case to read the header information, and then we're manually adding those line items in there. But that only, it's really useful if you don't want the software to read the line items, if you want to do it on your own. So let me go ahead and get rid of that, and let's save it without the line items, right? So just so we can have everything come in under a single line item. We got invoice 1098. We have total, which is 1636. We chose not to detect the tax, and that's also a setting. You can set that up if you want the software to detect tax. That's actually part of the options too. So I'm going to go ahead and click on publish. And let's see what that looks like in QuickBooks. Let's go to the search box in the top right here, and let's click on invoice. And there it is. It brought in the lump sum amount, it brought in the description from the payee, and it brought the one item that we chose, because in this case we didn't choose to bring the line items, we just chose to bring one single line. Okay, that was perfect. Now let's do an example of uploading an invoice that I had created with some other system, but bringing in every line item detail. And also let's do it in QuickBooks Desktop so we can see what that looks like in QuickBooks Desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my QuickBooks Desktop client. I'm going to click on Upload Sales because I'm uploading an invoice from something that I sold to a customer. I'm going to select Capture Line Items on Sales because that's what we want. We want those line items to come in one by one. Click on Browse, select the invoice, hit Open. Once it's done uploading, I'll close that and I'll wait for that transaction to be read and processed. Then I'm going to click into Inbox. I'm going to click on the I here to view the transaction. And this is similar than the other invoice that I brought. It did bring in the net amount or the total. It brought in the date of the invoice, which is right there. It brought in the invoice number. So all that stuff is right. It couldn't figure out what customer it belonged to. So we're going to click on the drop down and look for the customer. There it is. Okay, so this customer happened to be in my QuickBooks Desktop file. I'm going to click yes. Category, I'm not going to select anything because we're going to do it transaction by transaction. So I'm going to scroll down and you're going to notice that every single line item was brought in description here. Okay, so it actually did the work for me and I brought in the units, the rates, the net. It brought in all that information, but it didn't bring the items. This particular invoice didn't even have items. So sometimes if it has items, it'll detect them if they are already in your QuickBooks file. If it doesn't have items, it'll come in like this. And then all you have to do is under category, pick each item that this invoice has to do with. So in some cases, it would be exact. In some cases, you would have to map it. So what we're doing here essentially is doing some mapping because it didn't detect each line item because there really wasn't one. But you just go in there and you select them and get them all matched out with whichever items they happen to be. I'm going to go ahead and select the tax code for this invoice if there happens to be a tax code. And then I'm going to click on Publish. And when that's done, you're going to see the little green check that says it's been published. It's going to take roughly a few minutes for it to sync in with QuickBooks Desktop. I'm going to go ahead and click on Resync QuickBooks Desktop data and click OK. And it takes about 5 minutes. So I'm basically pushing the sync in. In most cases, you just let it be and it'll sync by itself. But I went ahead and pressed it to see it. And then we're going to switch over to QuickBooks Desktop now to see exactly what that looks like. Okay, so I'm on QuickBooks Desktop. I'm going to go into my Customer Center. And then I'm going to look for that customer. Where is it? Brian Cook. And then I'm going to look for Invoice 1001. Let's narrow this down to Invoices. And let's do Dates All. And there's Invoice 1001. That's the one that we just brought in from AutoEntry. Let me double click that. And there it is. Every single description came in exactly as AutoEntry had it. All the rates, all the quantities, and the items that I had mapped inside of the AutoEntry software. So my thought is that this software is awesome. It does a lot of work that accounting professionals need in order to speed up their work. It also is great for end users. If you have a business owner that doesn't want to do some of this data entry manually and is doing a substantial amount of bills and receipts and even invoices created from other systems and needs to bring them into QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, this is a great solution. Which takes me to explaining to you how AutoEntry prices their services, which I think is really innovative. So let me go into AutoEntry.com. And the reason why I think it's innovative, I'm going to click here on Accountants and scroll down to Pricing. And the reason why I think it's innovative is because most third-party apps that provide solutions for accounting professionals tend to charge per company or per client they're supporting. And AutoEntry doesn't do that. You can have unlimited users, unlimited clients, and what they charge is per document or per conversion. So if you scroll down here and you click on pricing plans USD, and you click on, for example, let's say Platinum, $98, that will give you an idea more or less. And that price may be subject to change by the time you watch this video. I don't know. I don't work for AutoEntry, but 500 credits means 500 transactions. And if you're dealing with transactions that is going to bring in the line item, it's worth 2 credits. So it's either 500 transactions with single line items or 250 transactions with detail line items for $100 a month. So the pricing really has to do with the volume that you are managing, and assuming that you use AutoEntry for 98% of your transactions and it detects and it speeds up your process. Essentially what they're doing is they're pricing based on the amount of value that the software is giving you, because the value is pretty much connected with the time you save, which is also very connected with the number of transactions that you're dealing with. So I think that's very innovative, and I thought I'll give kudos to AutoEntry for that. So I hope you liked this video. Hit like, add some comments below if you had some questions, and hopefully on my next AutoEntry video, I'll go deep dive into how it reads bank statements, because that's actually really exciting stuff, how it reads bank statements and it reads the debits and credits from bank statements and also brings that stuff into QuickBooks automatically. Thank you.